Hi, welcome to Crappy Media Reviews. I'm the Crappy Media Reviewer, and today I'm going to talk about Pat or Pat, one of the most infamous SpongeBob episodes of all time. So, first off, our crew. Okay, it's the guys who wrote the path for Gary, the guy who animated the Splinter, SpongeBob's grandma, and the guy who should come back. So, the episode starts with SpongeBob getting a letter from his grandma inviting him for her birthday, and the funny joke about Grandma SquarePants not knowing how old she is. Honestly, I think this is a really good note to start on. And I also like SpongeBob's reaction to this. And then he needs someone to look after Gary while he's away and chooses Patrick because Squidward refused. He really trusts Patrick about the situation, who then decides to invert the episode dumped in which he steals Gary and spends the 2 days with him by proving that he would be a terrible owner to him. So then SpongeBob gives a list of things to do for Patrick, who eats coral chips, which will be important later, and then Patrick decides that he should read the list, holds it upside down, and thinks that SpongeBob has bad handwriting, and then decides to take Gary for a walk. Gary is really happy about this, but then Patrick decides to take a shit because the coral chips he ate earlier hurt his tummy. Gary is then hungry and Patrick decides to feed him, and by feed him I mean eating almost the entire thing, leaving just a small portion of it to Gary. I really like how smug he is while doing everything, and then Gary's face is also hilarious. And then he decides to give Gary a bath, but he fills the bath further with food. Then the food gets drained. Gary wants to eat it, but Patrick tells him no, and the house gets flooded. Gary attacks Patrick, and we have also a really good amount of amazing animation and a nice amount of slapstick and a good chase scene too. I really like how the writers decide to give Patrick his comeuppance for being a terrible snail sitter. He then decides to give Gary the opposite of a watery bath. I really wonder what he thinks. Hey, there's Shelly the Scallop. Hi, Shelly. So he puts a mask on. I wonder what it is. A flamethrower. Now, this is like the subliminal messages scene from the episode Gary Takes a Bath. However, instead of terrifying Gary and the audience, Patrick just shows the flamethrower to him just to take him to a bath. Patrick then decides to give him a proper bath with a hose and soap. I'll not talk about the soul joke because honestly it's just one gag and it's really stupid to demote the segment of the video about it. However, the animation here is really amazing. I also like Gary's reactions, like usual. The house then accidentally gets flooded, and Patrick calls SpongeBob to come home, and then SpongeBob gets really worried about them because of hearing Gary's meow. He then decides to run upstairs and sees that they are both okay. We also end on a happy ending and a funny joke with SpongeBob not being worried anymore and Patrick not understanding what Gary says. And basically, that's Pat Sir Pat. I mean, I like this episode. It's a complete inversion on Dumped, my least favorite episode, because it proves that Patrick would be a terrible owner to Gary. About the flamethrower scene. Like I said, I don't think it's a really bad scene. In fact, I think it's a better version of the subliminal message Girl from Gary Takes a Bath. It's not creepy at all, and all Patrick did was show the flamethrower to Gary, and nothing else. In fact, all he tried to do was just get Gary to take a bath. SpongeBob is also really good in this episode as he is really concerned about Gary as he constantly calls Patrick about everything and even rushes home when he hears them suffocating in the end. I also like the jokes in this episode, such as the scene where Patrick talks to himself and believes that SpongeBob wants to leave Bikini Bottom forever in the beginning. The scenes with Grandma SquarePants are also nice, though that's to be expected from all of her appearances. So overall, I give Pat Sir Pat a 10 out of 10. Stay tuned to the next review where I'm going to talk about Fred the Show, one of the most infamous Nickelodeon shows of all time. See ya!